Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Maximum Gravy, Austin Whitsitt, John Kays, DL Hill, Julian Jeremiah, Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Samson, Maris, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lostcat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'm going to hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
You would notice them in like arcades and stuff like that. Wait, what are they in arcades? Or am I thinking? Anyways, whatever. I thought you would ask me something more interesting about gaming. I don't know. Some people mock gaming, but it's a hobby like fishing or just anything else. A hobby's a hobby, right?
I don't mock it. I just
find-
never got into it. Thank God I didn't, because I would have been wasting a lot more time.
Well, a hobby is just like your time. Everybody has their time. Do you consider your time a waste? Because you might as well lump it into that too. In a sense, it kind of is, like it's all like vanity in a sense, but like God does want us happy, and it does give us things, you know.
Yeah, but I would
To enjoy.
I would listen. I know me. I know how to get into things. I would be wasting. It would be other than hobby. It would be tapping into other time. So I'm glad I never really got into it.
Well, I'm glad I did get into it because when I was back in Europe, I was an outdoor kid, right? But when I came to Canada, I was more like indoor lifestyle. So gaming was a good substitute to make up for like not having the outdoor life I used to have. And I also find that gaming kept me out of trouble, like during my school years, because I didn't get into stuff like drugs and stuff like that because I'd rather game, you know what I mean? Than like waste my money on stuff like that. So
Yeah. No,
it
I
was
agree.
like it was something to keep me out of trouble. Let's just say that.
It's funny because
yeah,
on the one hand, I'm like saying, heck, my kids, they don't go out, the freaking thing. But at the same token, I'm like, what are they missing out there? I know what I did when I was out there, you know? I know who I got involved with when I was out there. So, I don't know, it's good and it's bad. But, they're teenagers now, you know, with this stupid freaking pandemic thing. So, I'm trying to get them back into churches ain't even open. I think Times Square Church is opening up on the 12th, and I'm definitely getting them there. 'Cause they got to start,
So
you know.
they're teenagers already?
Yeah, an
Oh.
18-year-old. I know he's got to be climbing the walls. Come on, I know what I went through. I mean, with hormones and rebellion collide, it's a vicious collision. You got the other guy that's 15 years old. So, you know. I don't know.
Well, I was just gonna say, if they're younger, I remember when I was young, what really helped me was like there was like a kid's version of the Bible. I remember I read that one, like I think it was like after the summer of grade 5. And after I read that, I went to read like the full version of the Bible, and that really helped build like solid foundations in my life.
Yeah,
So I was just gonna recommend that if you have younger kids. I don't know if the kids' Bible is.
Got it. Got all that. I'm not worried about them with the Christianity. I ain't. They're solid. They know. I'm worried about them with the, you know, meeting people, mingling. You know, we're social beings. I know they gotta be
Right.
climbing the wall sometimes. I see when my son comes down. He's like,
You're mumbling a little bit, Neil.
huh? Anybody know?
Hey, Steve.
It should be good. You were a bit farther from the mic, it seemed. It didn't help.
No, I think it's because he's contemplating about his family and he's just kind of murmuring his way through his thoughts. That's all.
Ah, I gotcha.
I need to get them out. They need to be social.
I thought you wanted to keep him away from all that trouble.
I said it's good. I feel good in that way, but at the same time, I feel like I'm robbing them.
Well,
we're
look,
in a bad place, man. Upstate stinks.
just get him a nice shiny new TV, buy him more video games, and give him the Bible, and they'll be good to go, right?
And then
I mean, they're
this
still
QE
young.
had a-
When you're young,
there's a
you enjoy to play more, right? Right?
Yes, QE's thing yesterday, he had pictures of Montana, which looks beautiful. And my son has been nagging me since this whole thing started, since, a year and a half ago, that we should move to Montana.
All right.
Those look really nice, though.
Well, you go where you're led to go, right?
Good morning.
Hey,
What's
Ted.
happening, Ted?
No, I'm still fighting this cold I caught from my grandchild.
You better go, you better go get the shot, Ted. What are you doing?
No, I can take a shot. I have a 9mm. I mean, or should I do the 45? Which one should I take?
Excellent stuff. So, about a couple of weeks ago, I got a new amplifier for my rear speakers, right? So, it's been my stereo in terms of it functioning as a piece of entertainment equipment as opposed to something I used to make my living from. Hasn't functioned for years. But I got a super chat, not a super chat, somebody dropped me a PayPal or something like that, I forget what, but I got about £50 that I didn't expect to get. So I'm like, I'm going to buy an amp. I'm going to make this system work again. It hasn't worked for years. I'm going to make it work, and then we can watch movies again. I know Neil keeps asking me if I've watched Ford versus Ferrari. It's like, I want to know. But I was going to, because I got a new amp. I bought it on my birthday because I got a surplus 50 quid. Anyway, so I buy this amp, second hand. It comes, I wire it up. Everything's wonderful. Stereo's working beautifully. Everything's sublime. I'm happy Nathan, right? Talking to hobbies. I was waiting for my moment to jump in because the reason I've got all of this gear originally is because it was a hobby. Then I turned it into my career and started working in a shop that sold it, and then it became my career again when I became a rep, traveling all over the world, working with studios and retailers and dealers and distributors, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, so it all works. I'm like, right, we're going to watch Ford versus Ferrari. I got working stereo. Right, Neil? Wicked. I was about to go and buy the Blu-ray, get it working, get it turned on. A few niggles aside from when it had last worked that I hadn't figured out, but I worked all them out and got it working, and we tested it. So we tested it. We watched, what did we watch? Cruella. Actually a pretty good movie. But anyway, tested it. So the stereo with a new DVD, tested it, watched a movie. Brilliant. Next step, watch a movie I want to watch, right, Neil? Yeah?
Yeah, Ford versus Ferrari.
Yeah, right, I want to watch Ford versus Ferrari. So do you recall a few, I don't know, it might have been a week ago or so, I said to Brian, is your mic stereo? Have you got something going on with your mic? Do you remember me asking him that?
Vaguely.
I do.
Right. And I was like, something happened and I couldn't figure out what it is. If something like that happens, I want to know what it is. It wasn't on the recording, so I kind of forgot about it. But then started to have a few other little niggly problems. So I started to troubleshoot, which is to say, swap things around to see if the fault moves. At first I thought I got a problem with one of my speakers. Obviously at first I thought it was Brian with a stereo mic, because just one of them cut out, one of the speakers cut out. So I'm like, oh, okay. I thought it was my hearing because one of my ears was blocked up with a bit of a cold at the time. No. I've tracked down the problem. the amp, the right hand channel that I use for the show, which is very frustrating. Don't get me wrong, I can still run it with just one speaker, but it is actually a stereo feed coming in and going out, so I do actually want to monitor it in that way. Not a major concern, unless the next one breaks, then I can't monitor anything. But there we go, it's just frustrating. So after, I don't know, a week tops of having it functioning, after 2 years of it being broken and spending a considerable sum getting all of my amps, because I've got a lot of them, all repaired and back to working order, I'm pretty sure from speaking to my amp tech, it's just a minor issue. The same original minor issue I had with the other mono that runs the left channel. So it's just like, okay, well, they're old. These things will have minor faults every so often. Normally, when you've ironed out all the creases with things like that, it's not like a car. It's not just wait for the next fault. Normally, they'll just tick along for another 10 years. So I'm hoping, I sent it off today, the UPS man's just come and collected it about an hour ago, with a hefty price attached, because I use it for the show. So it's actually really important. It makes me money. So it started off as a hobby. This was where I was going to go. It wasn't intended to be this long, by the way, to tie in what you were saying about hobbies. It's like, well, yeah, what might start as a hobby in terms of you, I don't know, building subwoofers. Let's relate it to something you could actually physically do with your hands. That's woodworking skills. That could eventually turn into a career that will make you money. Now, 5 years ago, I'd have made that example and said, that's never going to happen with your gaming hobby. However, in the last 5 years, that might not necessarily be the case anymore. In other words, there's so many people. You know, the gaming industry is bigger than the movie industry, or at least it flips places here and there over the years. I don't know where it stands at the moment, but certainly at certain points, there's been more money going into, from the consumer that is, gaming than into movies, which is astonishing, really. Which just gives you an idea of how big it is, and potentially that there might be a career at the end of it. I can't believe those words are crossing my lips, but given that 15 years ago, it wouldn't have been the case that I'd been sat here saying, yeah, I make a career from YouTube. People would have laughed.
Yeah, that's right. I was gonna
I
say,
agree.
gaming could lead to developing games. I was even thinking about that. Like, I was messing around with Unity, and I think just Unity for now. And that's a possibility. Because when you have a passion for something, then there's a drive to go after, right? So, yeah.
It's because of
And,
the competitive nature of it. They've turned. I looked at this when I saw it starting to blow up and thought, well, I'll find out what it is and how it works, because just out of interest, because it's clearly going to be a thing, and it is. You know,
right.
like I say, if you can develop a career from it, but speedrunning basically makes it into a competition. So you've got an aspect of it that you can compare and standardize how good people are at a particular game, in the same way as how good they are at a game of running 100 meters.
Right. And they can turn this into like making money. Who's that going? Because
Well,
they
it's
can
now.
like run
Well,
successful
maybe.
Twitch channels, right?
Well,
They can run successful Twitch channels, and they have a lot of subscribers, and then people
yeah.
can support them that way.
There's Twitch streamers that do make money, and there's certain ones that put their videos, the popular world records or whatever it is in that instance, onto YouTube and will make money that way as well. But ultimately speaking, that has now become, over the last 5 years, you drop in the ocean. You know, you've got to really find a crack that hasn't been exploited, or become the very best at a game that's probably got a leaderboard with 150 people in the top ranks.
Right.
So, you know, in the last 5 years, it's become like, well, let's say it was midway, a couple of years ago. You say, yeah, become good at a game, see if you can get close to world records and make interesting videos about it, and there's a good chance you'll make a living from it. And again, I
Right.
think even a couple of years ago, people would have laughed at you.
Right. Like even video gaming was like so like was considered for like the nerdy crowd, but now it's like for the cool people, and even adults are into it now. It's not just for kids anymore, also. And
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Don't delude yourself.
I never looked at it that way, but I heard like some people look at it that way. And there was something else that like I noticed a lot of YouTubers, right? Like the Angry Video Game Nerd and a bunch of others. They like went into like film school and they like did film stuff. And instead of, you know, that actually got them into YouTube and became like super successful YouTubers. But I think this is a little bit of a tangent now that I think of it. But
Oh, it's a tangent I like because that's what I did. I did media studies and performing
yeah,
arts. So, yeah, that's precisely what I trained in and ended up in YouTube. So, shock horror. You end up doing what you
right.
trained in. The fact that I ended up having a sales career that is literally directly related to the technical aspect of my YouTube career, that was the segue I used earlier, and also to moan about a broken amp.
Right. I guess that's why I brought it up then. So it's not that much of a tangent then. Okay. But yeah,
Well, thank you for amplifying the moment, Righteous.
Tangent, you say?
well,
Well, it's kind of a tangent, and still in the pre-show. I don't mind talking about techie stuff. You know, if that,
yeah,
I'll apologise to those deeply concerned people who watch the show, because obviously I get so many comments about the audio, people praising me and saying how fantastic it is. No, I don't get any of that. You only get it if it's terrible. So the fact that I might have some phasing issues because I haven't got two speakers to monitor it with, I doubt even if there was anybody would care. They certainly wouldn't note it, even if they noticed at all.
Are you saying you want someone to care?
Am I saying what? Sorry, I've only got one speaker. It's difficult to hear you.
Are you saying you want somebody to care?
No, I'm saying that by caring, you raise the standard. Now, most people don't know what the standard is or care. Now, when they hear something of a low standard on YouTube, most people just forgive it to a certain extent. In other words, they won't necessarily not watch the next video by that YouTuber because the sound is subpar. Now, there is a breaking point. There's a break point where even I will go into a videographer's video, start watching it and go, this is so bad, it's unlistenable. And then I switch off as a result. And that is a pretty low bar, to be fair. But then when you compare yourself to people who are successful, you realise that actually the bar for successful quality audio is actually much higher than most YouTubers attain. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm nowhere near, in terms of popularity, those people to care about it, but I still do. I want to sound as good as the people that are professional, regardless of how small I am. This is actually my profession. So therefore I take it as seriously as they do, despite the lack of popularity.
Good morning.
morning.
Good morning, Eli.
Are you gonna clip out Akumu virus yesterday?
Oh, of course.
Or have you?
You know that you had an integral part in that, don't you? Yes, I've
I don't
already done
even
it.
know.
Yes.
I
I've already
just
done it.
remember thinking, oh, awesome. So it goes out some point today.
No, it's already done. So it was a very, very good section. So several people contacted me off the back of it. You're not the first to mention it. It was a good section. And I'd already turned it into a video. But because of, like I say, several people contacted me, I'm like, okay, maybe there's more meat on this bone. So I then gave it a nice trailer and added that to the premiering stream that does come out tonight. But I've also done a shorts video with different, I don't normally do this, but I normally just hack out a bit of the video I've already made and make it into a 60-second video and change the formatting, maybe change the positioning on the things on the video. But in this instance, no, I actually went to the effort of hacking out a bit with you, pointing out that in Gem Panda's server, they're all for taking the time and effort to explain to you how light's bending into your eyes. And admittedly, I had to hack out a few of your ums and ahs and stuff, but, you know, in a reasonably consistent way, you pointed out what people will be going out of their way to educate you in regards to light coming into your eyes in a curved shape, right?
Beautiful.
So you lead that video. It's called Flat Earth Proof, ! comma, ... Also, the globe is dead. #shorts. And that video is, you lead that video. In other words, I think you're the first person that's heard speaking.
Awesome. Well, but more of a treat than I suspected. Forgot my whole role in it.
Nah, subconsciously, that's why you're asking. You knew you were integral in that little discussion.
You played a very straight character.
And the chances are the people listening right now are actually reasonably acquainted with the show because they're probably watching on the second channel. Subscribe today if you're not already to the second channel. However, just in case you are a newbie here and you're wondering what we're talking about, the globe has no straight lines to acquire that is subject to standard refraction. That would be atmosphere, sphere-shaped air, the air that you think you have on a sphere, bending the light at a rate of r. Now, you can fudge and fiddle with it, but that is a fact, unless you suck out all the atmosphere. In other words, unless your violation of the second law of thermodynamics, violating sky vacuum, actually took effect and was a space for the gas that expands in all directions to fill, which it is and it would. But that aside, they haven't got any straight lines to acquire to use tools like the Sextant, which not only imply but require the ground to be flat in order for them to work. And by their very nature, they're an angle measuring device requiring 2 straight lines to meet a vertex. Ergo, they only work on a flat plane, cannot work on a sphere, and every line that you can see to everything ever on a sphere has a bent line to your eyeball, something that they will go out of their way to explain to you, especially when telling you that the horizon, which we are detailing as the geometric physical limitation to your view, as per the Earth curve maths, is actually refracted. The rebuttal to the black swan leaves them with no straight lines and highlights the fact that the globe has nothing but bent lines to everything always, without exception. Just to summarise.
Nathan, I got a slide for you and Master B to go over that little bit of back and forth that Virus had about the straight line and the LOP.
Okay, it's up.
All right, so I'll just read it. The line of position is plotted as a straight line, even though it is part of a large circle of equal altitude. The reason, since the radius of the circle of equal altitude is so large that a small section of the circle closely approximates a straight line. So it was a little clever thing he was doing there.
That's naughty.
It is naughty, isn't it?
I wasn't paying attention.
Some might call that as just complete distraction technique and addressing a completely irrelevant and different point to the one that's being raised. But sorry, Tim.
I did just sorry, I wasn't.
Well done.
I was flicking around screens when you were explaining this. I won't ask you to repeat it, but yeah, there was a point where I was pointing out that the LOP is just basically the radius, and he contested it, said it was no, that's meeting it at a curve. Now, by chance, on screen at the time, you had it depicted with LOP written next to it, and it's the radius. And you were like, yeah, what Nathan's describing is correct, but how you use it, and then you went on to refute what he said in too fewer words for me to understand what actually happened. Now, I this is where I have to say it again. I understand you just explained why that happened, but I wasn't listening. I was fiddling around with other things.
It's okay. I just sent you another slide. Let's just go the 2 slides, the new one and then the one previously I sent you.
Gotcha. Okay, so 2 GPs. Yeah.
Okay, because it's such a large circle, the charts on the boat, to get the exact nature of it, you got to put it on the flat chart. And so you can't put this huge circle on the flat chart. So they go to where they cross the fix, okay, which is one of those 2 crossings. And then because it's magnified to that position, it's no longer look like a circle. So go to the previous slide I put up. And it'll say, the line of position is plotted as a straight line, even though it is part of a large circle of equal altitude. The reason, since the radius of the circle of equal altitude is so large that the small section, the part that goes on the chart, okay, of that circle closely approximates a straight line. Well, it is, because it's so magnified that because it's such a large circle, and you go to that one fix, it does look straight. That's what he was saying. A straight line was. And we were saying
Hold on. You're saying that... okay. So
Yeah,
where
now
we've
see
got
what
this
they're
box,
doing.
this dotted line, right? What's in this box? Well, this line here is part of the rest of this circle. Okay? And when you put it in the box without the rest of this circle, this line... the same line I just highlighted on the big circle, looks kind of straight, right?
Okay, so I was confused for a second,
Yeah.
but I get it now. So
That's pathetic.
So switcheroo.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's pathetic.
No, that's why Adam, you nailed it. So that was good that you came in.
I
also wasn't listening when you spoke, Adam. Can you reiterate what you said? Because I was telling 10th man that I wasn't listening while while you were telling me the rest of it that
The
was
ma-
also
The
important.
mathematical statement they're making that if you take that particular section of the circumference of the circle of equal altitude, you could consider that very small area straight. You couldn't. It's on a curve.
Hell
for goodness
no.
sakes. But if you did look, you can see that that approximates that. Fine, give them that. Well, that's not our point. We were at no point were we saying there is a straight line on the circle of equal altitude. It's the radius from the GP to the circumference that's your straight line, the bit they're trying to avoid because it's curved. Because for it to mark out on their ball earth, it can't be straight because it'd be up in the air, wouldn't it?
I see.
So
So
they're then
where
trying
he's
to-
saying in this square, I say this line, which again is only a section of it, and it's kind of AP to ZN, if you like, but meeting at the edge of the circumference of the depicted sphere in the small box. Well, that line to the centre would be this line to the centre, and that's its radius. So what he's done, Adam's saying it's the switcheroo. What he's doing is saying, when I say that line must be straight, it's a radius, radii are straight. He says, no, this line, the switcheroo, not the line we're talking about, can be considered straight, even though it isn't. So what? It is actually bent. It's the radius. It's the circumference, or a section thereof. So what if you could consider that straight? The radius, meeting in the centre of this circle of equal altitude, is the LOP. And it has to be straight. Simple as.
Well, the radius was the point we were talking about, as Adam said. And because ballers don't understand, and he even admitted the radius was straight. But that is straight all the way from the GP of the star to you. He's taking a section of the arc, magnified down, and saying, well, that's straight too. Well, yeah, on a chart.
What a
So
joke.
let me clarify for those who are as confused as me. Because the LOP is that you got that dotted line around, and then you have the radius extending from you from the zenith, well, the ground position of the star to you. So what the LOP is, the line of position, is where the line intersects the circle of equal altitude, right? That's your position on that line.
You got
that circle.
It's a little bit more than that. The whole point is that the sextant is an angle measuring device, like Virus said. And he said it takes angles between the horizon and a star in the sky, which is true. And we know that angles cannot, you can't get an angle on a curved surface. So when you got two or more circles of equal altitudes, where they cross is the fix. Now, the radius of the GP to you is the straight line radius. That's what we were talking about. Line of position, okay, has to be mathematically worked out because you're starting off with an assumed position based on your dead reckoning, okay? You're saying, I think I'm over here based on yesterday's log or the log from 3 hours ago. And then you shoot a sun or a star or whatever, and then you update it because to get your actual position, you have to assume a position first near where you think you are. But that's not even the argument. This is what Adam said was so clear. We're talking about how does the sextant work? This is why that's the only position I hold when I argue the sextant. Is it an angle measuring device? Yes. Does it measure from the GP of a sun to you? Yes. Well, is that a radius? Yes. Is the radius ever curved? No. Welcome to flat Earth. Everything else is it's just not important.
Fundamentally, when you're doing it, the circle of equal altitude, the LOP, is a circle. And for it to have any accuracy, it must be a circle, an exact circle, so that all the possible positions based on that azimuth of that star or sun can be plotted as a circle drawn around the GP. But at no point do you want to approximate on that circular straight line. There's no point that you ever would, even dealing with balls, draw a straight line there. All you want is a point, a dot on that circle. And then you want another dot on another circle where the two intersect. So there's no straight lines relevant on that. The only straight line is the radius line from the GP to the circumference for you to be able to draw the circumference. And that's what we're saying isn't straight in their world. It's bent based on the application of R on as you put it onto the ball. So they're addressing, like I said, it's a switcheroo. Yeah, you could approximate that. What it would do is got nothing to do with the measurements you're about to do and the calculations you're going to do if you draw a straight line there. It's irrelevant.
And the measurements that you are going to do are going to take place on a flat plane. That's the bit that's relevant. So further to the fact that it debunks the sphere, as you're describing, Adam, I always want to strap on the end that how it actually works is on a flat plane. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by the Adam Meakin, 10th Man, Eli. I assume that's Arwin trying to join during the intro. Let's have a look. It is. We've also got Neil, Chocolate Saying, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Afternoon, everyone.
Morning.
Yo.
Morning.
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 Oh, I was on mute. Hi guys.
Hello, very good to have you on. Good show?
Yeah, pretty rowdy too. But yeah, it was all over the place. A whole bunch of flat earthing and a bunch of spirit talk, and ended up talking about Formula race cars and how they're supposed to have vacuum engines and all that. Just like, but it was interesting.
Very good. Shame, I missed it. I was busy boxing one of my amplifiers, which is, it's not broken, it's just got a fault. But there we go. Such is life.
Props, he did do his own thumbnail, I've noticed. I've not been able to join you today, Arlen, but
No way. You did your own thumbnail?
Seen it.
Oh,
Yeah,
man,
I just uploaded an old picture I used in a presentation 3 years ago.
It's a start. That's a start.
Eh,
You'll get
it
into
could
the flow
still
of it.
use some editing, Adam.
Yeah, well, send it me and I'll tweak it.
Don't help him out. Just do it yourself. Just acquire that skill. Right, let's do a bit of housekeeping before we.
But that is my skill.
Before we get too much
making
into.
Adam do it.
Delegation isn't a skill, right? Anybody can delegate. Don't give me that middle management bullshit that you're adding some value by asking someone else to do it.
But some get really good at it.
Yeah, I'm really good at asking people to do stuff too. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve?
Hell no.
Refracted, right?
Maybe we could find some.
Well, that depends. What day is it? I mean, sometimes it's refracted always, and sometimes it's straight. I don't know. But,
Yesterday it was straight, but you're still going to need art for it.
Well, that's wrong. See, repeating verbatim an anti-flat earth rhetoric that it's straight because we're just looking at it, and therefore it's straight because I need it to be in this example, doesn't mean that that's how it works on a sphere. Yeah? When they gave us the rebuttal, you can't see the geometric horizon, you would never expect to see it unless you sucked out all of the atmosphere. That is to make the assertion, as I described to a virus when it asked me if I'm looking at my cigarettes. I'm like, not on a sphere, you're not. They're not where you think they are if you've looked through a sphere rose-tinted set of glasses. That is to say, when you believe you're on a sphere, nothing is where it's supposed to be. It's always refracted because you're always looking through sphere-shaped air and you've got standard refraction applicable. Therefore, you've never got a straight line to anything ever.
as a matter of fact, you can't measure to an apparent location, especially when they didn't even want to be tied to standard refraction because they said it was intense, extreme, extra super refraction, and therefore you flat earthers needed to actually take temperature measurements from point A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P, all the way to the position to say, well, that's how much it's refracted. So they stuck that with us. So you'll never be able to get a geometric measurement.
Well, that's part of the bait and switch, because asking us to go and take actual measurements of atmospheric conditions, atmosphere being the assumption of what we're measuring when we do so, doesn't change the fact that when they apply atmospheric refraction, it has absolutely sod all to do with the conditions on the day and everything to do with an R value that's sticking out like a sore thumb in whatever value they ascribe. Now, 7/6R in standard form doesn't change the fact that they can apply superlooming and then apply a different value based on an R value, because that's how sphere-shaped air refraction, otherwise known as atmospheric refraction, otherwise known as standard refraction, otherwise known as terrestrial refraction, they're all based on R. So it's got sod all to do with the conditions on the day and everything to do with what they're doing in their maths to make whatever their maths says the world is, that's based on R, match the picture that you're showing them.
I mean, didn't I call it no Atmo day? The day that the geometric horizon might have been measured if it existed, because they told us that you can't. Why would you expect to see it? We have an atmosphere, guys. What's wrong with you?
Therefore, the sextant will never ever work on a sphere. You've never got no Atmo day on a sphere. Always Atmo sphere on a sphere. So never a straight line to use the sextant, ever. Well, sextant works just fine now, doesn't it? When it assumes a flat plane beneath your feet. So it cannot work on a sphere because atmosphere, no Atmo day, my ass. Just no sphere working sextant ever. How are you going to claim it works when it's specifically using straight lines, something you can't have on a sphere? Because of the atmosphere, right? Refracted, yeah? Yeah, that's going to bite you in the ass when you need a straight line and can't get one. So we say, where'd you get your straight line to use the sextant as it works and is utilised? The answer, we can't. What do you think we can do? Suck out all the atmosphere to make this tool work with our belief? No, you can't, can you? It just doesn't work with your sphere belief.
Not at all.
But when it's this hot,
An entire year of telling us refraction in response to the Black Swan has really come back to bite you guys, huh?
Yeah.
That's why the sextant will lead them back to the Black Swan.
Yeah, you were one of the people that got in touch with me after the fact and were like, awesome. So the loop is complete. Refraction, refraction, don't you know what refraction is? It's refracted, all right. So, you've got this tool here that uses a straight line. Where'd you get it? You just look at it and it's straight. Hold on. No. Refraction. Do you not forget that that's what your claim is? We've heard it so many times. So what are you going to do now, like Virus does? and say, oh no, we just look at it and it's straight. No, you've spent 21 months telling us refraction, clown show.
Can I just read a quick wiki quote in relation to this? It's talking about the sun and its position. On the horizon, refraction is slightly greater than the apparent diameter of the sun. So when the bottom of the sun's disk appears to touch the horizon, the sun's true altitude is negative. If the atmosphere suddenly vanished at this moment, one couldn't see the sun, as it would be entirely below the horizon. That's their claim.
That's due to sphere-shaped air, as described and detailed with the word atmosphere. If there was no sphere-shaped air, then the sun wouldn't even be there. Totally different place. All right, so no straight lines to the horizon then for a sextant to work if we're assuming sphere-shaped air. So what are we going to do, lads, on the anti-flat earth side? You're going to tell us let's just not assume sphere-shaped air when you've spent 21 months solid barking at us? Yeah, that's going to become a big problem now, isn't it? Because how the world actually works is with straight lines. As demonstrated by the Sextant. Bit of a bummer if you haven't got any, and you haven't on a globe. Bye-bye, globe. Earth is flat.
Nah, just look at it.
Just look at it and you can see how straight and flat it is to the horizon, tells us, Virus. All right, Virus. Thanks for telling us if we look at the horizon, we know how flat and straight it is. We would agree. Welcome to flat Earth.
Yeah, that's your argument. Look, it's not a thing looming upwards from behind a presupposed curve and all that whole routine. No, I just look at it. It's there. That's our argument. Ballers.
And then he got our argument.
That's accurate.
Got some nerve.
But that is our argument. Alwyn's absolutely right. He summarised it beautifully. Because as a sphere-believing muppet who thinks you've got a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, that would be Earth curve for a horizon, you would tell us that if you see a clock that, according to your model, cannot be seen, it's actually a slightly looming, non-standard refraction hyena holographic projection of a clock from behind the reified sphere-edge horizon you think is Earth curve. What's my rebuttal to that? Oh, as a flat earther, I'd just say clock. There's a clock. I just see it because it's there. It's not a mirage. It's not refracted. It's not thinking I can see something that isn't really there because of sphere-shaped air, and the only reason it is because a different value that's applicable to an R value in your terrestrial refraction is telling me that I can see something I can't because I believe I've got sphere-shaped air and believe there's a sphere beneath my feet. That's what I would believe if I was on a sphere, though. Slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena holographic projection of a clock from behind Earth curve. Now, as a flat earther, like Virus was telling us about how we use sextants, you just look at the horizon and see it. It's just there. Straight line to it. Flat Earth is what we deal with in reality. Not holograms of clocks from behind Earth curve we can't see that has got bent lines to it and prohibits your use of a sextant. No. We just have a flat Earth beneath our feet. And no. We're not seeing a mirage of a clock. It's just a clock. No explanation is required when you're a flat earther. There's a clock, I can see it. End of explanation. So Occam's razor. Is it a slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena holographic projection of a clock from behind the reified sphere-edge horizon that I have decided the horizon is when physical and blocking things that suddenly aren't being blocked so they're projected up as holograms? Or is it just a clock you can see? Because Occam's razor would say, I'm right as a flat earther, it's just a clock. And when you come to use tools that apply themselves to the straight lines that we have on this flat plane, they work. Further to that, they do not work on a sphere.
I'd like to quote Akumovirus, who's in chat right now, saying, your vision is straight, regardless of what light does. Welcome to Flat Earth, Akumovirus.
Really?
Okay, so two things. When I said that's our argument, because of the R in it, and second of all, yeah, Akumu is very, sensitive. It was funny when he said, "Don't welcome me to Flat Earth, Nathan." Don't you do it?
Don't do that.
Yeah, he told us that the sextant measures straight lines and angles. So I welcomed him to flat Earth, and he went, don't do it, don't welcome me to flat Earth. Yeah, well, if it's measuring straight lines, you don't have any on a sphere. So you can't function on a sphere because you've got bent lines to everything. Atmosphere. There's no atmo day, never applicable in your P-shaped brain that has a sphere beneath and a curved Earth beneath it. Well, unfortunately for you lads, the ones on the anti-flat Earth side, the ones that actually hear the argument, you've spent 21 months telling us that everything's refracted. Yeah? And we understand that we'll never get to see a straight line to anything unless we sucked out all the atmosphere. So therefore, you can never use a sextant on a globe unless you suck out all the atmosphere. And yet it works! And how does it work? Well, with straight lines to a flat plane, because that's what we actually have. Shout out to you, Jules Luds. Wow, man, you're super smashing that super chat, Jules. Thank you so much. Share the stream, folks, and challenge all the Globers to come and party with your evidence. Yeah, that ain't going to happen, Jules. Thanks for the super chat, and I appreciate the sentiment. 10th Man summarised it yesterday. Their absence is their admission of defeat.
That's correct. But I don't know what he expects. He sounds like a flat earther when he's talking to Kumu virus, and he just don't realize it.
If I can see the horizon, it's just a straight line to it. Yeah, that's what we say. Yeah, that would be our argument. As opposed to you then later chuckling and going, yeah, the light is all bending into my eyes. Ha ha ha, my head hurts.
He's in chat saying,
well, when I'm looking at my cigarette, it's not. What do you think? It's not where it is when I'm holding my cigarette. No, guys, in your model, it's not where it is. Nothing is where it is.
Godzilla 37 from the super chat, thank you very much indeed, says, welcome to Flat Earth, Akuma Virus. Indeed.
What's he saying in chat, Arwen?
He says we just don't understand.
Aw, how
okay.
sweet.
Poor guy.
Aw, we don't understand how your head hurts. No, your head definitely was hurting. You also told us how we got a straight line to the horizon, we just have to look at it. And you also laughed a lot while you told us that actually, yeah, Craig, fight the flat Earth's right. All the light's bending to your eye. Ha 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 ha! Why does my head hurt?
Now he says we just get the globe claims wrong, apparently. We're wrong about what the globe requires.
Oh, my bad. 21 months of you telling us refraction. I just misheard you.
Gets better every time you say
That's a
something.
damn shame, man. Virus, man. You should be ashamed of your damn self.
No, so did I mishear you when you said refraction? 1,000 times in comments. Did I mishear you? Did you actually mean straight line to the horizon when you were all saying refraction? Oh, my bad. I obviously am slightly deaf. I didn't think you said refraction. I thought you said straight line debunking Earth as a sphere. That's what I thought you said, Virus. Yeah. That's why we're welcoming you to Flat Earth, because you told us how straight the line to the horizon was, because you can just see it, therefore it's just straight. Yeah, that's our argument. Meanwhile, the guys over at Gem Pandas are very keen to show us Andrew Thomas Young's depictions of how light rays always bend into your eye. No straight line to the horizon ever to acquire unless you sucked out all the atmosphere. What are you, stupid? Yeah, we are when we come to use a sextant with its straight lines that you can no longer acquire as a result of the Black Swan. Refraction. Yeah, we love it. It's just now we've got a tool, that'll be a sextant, to actually remove your heads after 21 months of you barking refraction at us, because suddenly you need to relinquish that refraction pretty quickly, don't you? Or tell us you don't care about it anymore. What's the 21 months all about then? 21 months of telling us refraction because you think it's straight lines to horizons? That's strange. Very confusing. That's why your head hurts. Just in case anybody watching on the anti-flat Earth side wonders why they got a headache. That's why. Snowbirds from the chat says, wow, Akumu just dug his grave. No, they all dug their grave when they said refraction. We even told them so. QE laid it out for them. The moment they say refraction, the end of their argument is on the other side of that hill that's refracted to become a non-geometric apparent position where the sky apparently meets the ground. Yeah? The moment they said that word, they lost. But now, suddenly, we go, okay, well, let's have a look at how the world actually functions. Here we are with a measuring tool that takes angles and straight lines along a flat ground that it assumes and describes as an area of equal altitude. How'd you get that on a globe? Refraction! Yeah, how'd you get that on a globe then? Straight lines to everything. Just have to look at it. Yeah, that doesn't work, does it, anymore, fundies?
Kumu Virus is now compartmentalizing it inside his head. He thinks that sight is straight, but light is curved. Overlooking that,
hello?
sight is light reaching your eyes, Akumu Virus. It's light reaching your eyes.
Yeah, it's reaching your eyes in a bent way on a sphere, but he needs it to be straight, so he's seeing it both bent and straight at the same time. That's cognitive dissonance. I explained it to you yesterday, Virus. If the light's bending to your eyes, deviating from straight. What's another word for deviating from straight, ladies and gentlemen? Say it with me. Refracted! That means deviated from straight. So the light from the horizon's refracted, deviated from straight. What's that, you say? Big problem when you need a straight line, it's just straight, because deviated from straight also means straight? Shout out to Bev Try Thinking with Bendizontal. Yeah, you need straight lines to be bent, don't you? Yeah, we know, it's really quaint.
That's why his head is hurting.
Yeah. Refraction bends light, not your eyesight nor your eye level. Read that up there, Nakumu. Thanks.
Is that a quote?
That's
But
what
the
he just said.
problem
Yeah.
is,
He said
the problem. Hold on. The problem is, Akumu, when you're measuring these angles, right? When you're measuring these angles, obviously you're looking at things, right? So are you looking straight at them, or are those things that you're looking at in positions that you're not looking directly at? I'm so confused.
I'm not. They said it's refracted. Refracted means deviated from straight. So therefore, it's deviated from straight. Now, when we're talking about what this tool uses, it's the horizon. So we're in no uncertain terms about what we're talking about. When we talk about the black swan, we make it absolutely plain. It's in the modus tollens argument. It's about the horizon. What's that, Bendy Crane? Our argument's about the horizon. Do you not remember saying that? What about the modus tollens itself? If the Earth is a sphere radius 3959, then every distance to horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And the distance to horizon is beyond the geometric limitations of a sphere radius 3959. Therefore, the horizon is not Earth curve, and the Earth is not a sphere. Now, I know you all heard it, and I know you all heard the word horizon, and I know you all barked refraction at me. So given that we've got a refracted horizon, and your justification is we can never have a straight line to it unless we remove the assumption of sphere-shaped air, i.e. atmosphere. So if we can never have a straight line to it, you can never utilise a tool that needs straight lines. That would be a sextant. Now that tool that uses straight lines and assumes we've got areas of equal altitude, that would be a flat earth, works. In application, with straight lines and an assumption that the ground is flat for it to work, it must be flat. And it is. And further to that actual use on a flat plane of the sextant, you can't get around it by drawing chords. You can't get around it by increasing and curving radius values. You can't get around it by using the old switcheroo with the section of a circumference when describing the LOP radius that must be flat. None of these things are actually done when you apply this tool to reality. It just takes an angle with a straight line and a 90 degree to wherever the star is above. And that requires the Earth to be flat and makes it an impossibility to perform if all light is curving as it is on a sphere. Remember, lads, on the anti-flat Earth side? Refracted, right? Yeah, we didn't confuse what you tell us when you say the horizon's refracted. You say the horizon is refracted, as it must be with your sphere-shaped air. Just a huge problem should you need a straight line, and you now do.
This is terrible for them.
I was thinking the same thing. This is bad, real bad for them. Great for us, though.
I didn't realise how glorious it was until yesterday, I've got to be honest. Well, I got props from 10th Man after the fact, but until we got into that wrangle-dangle, and the moment it was a straight line assumption from Virus, it's like, bang, Black Swan! He's like, yeah, but the black swan, what's he going to say? He's refracted. Where's he going to go? I didn't realise the awesome power of the sextant until you end up in a wrangle-dangle with somebody and they need a straight line. So you go, black swan. And then what are they going to say to that? Yeah, the line to the horizon's the black swan's straight. No, it's refracted, right? It's the end of the road, globe-believing fundies. You don't even know it.
So now instead of cigarettes, the globe earthers want to come to flat earthers and ask if they can bum a straight line. F out of here.
All those nonsensical statements about how would you, why would you even expect to see this geometric horizon? We have an atmosphere, guys.
You know what we
Everything's always deviating, always, all the time.
In the UK, we have two names for cigarettes. Yeah. If you're a roll-up smoker, you'll understand this. So a roll-up's a roll-up, and a straight is a cigarette. A normal filter-tipped cigarette is a straight. Yeah? And a fag. But we'll brush over that.
That's oddly contradicting. A straight and a fag at the same time.
I know.
That's correct.
Yeah. So you'll bum a fag and bum.
Fag doesn't mean that here. Fag means cigarette here. Doesn't mean if you ask somebody to bum a fag, it just means you want a cigarette.
Oh, wow.
Doesn't make you a seedy politician, no?
Can you bum a refracted cigarette?
Yeah, bumming a straight.
Say it.
How are they going to pick it up when I put it down? Where are they going to reach?
What do you mean? It's right there.
That's when standard refraction comes in, right?
We were in the middle of the wrangle dangle yesterday when somebody brought up Craig suggesting that he can't see his own hand. Now, I didn't know if it was the case that he is making that argument when that was brought up. Is that the case?
What I saw of it was a clip, and he was talking to Mitchell from Australia, I believe, and he had his hand in front of him on the screen, and he says, "Here's my hand," and something to the effect is, "It's there, but it's not there." And Mitchell busted up laughing.
Wow, he actually said that.
But it's
Yeah,
correct.
because it's just
hold on.
refracted.
Occasionally, anti-flat earthers will abide by the actual rhetoric of a heliocentric model, an atmosphere sphere-shaped air, producing an effect where nothing is where you think it is.
That's
That's what he was saying, and it was right in front of him, right? So, like, imagine going to pick up a set of keys to go to your car with. It's not. You got to aim.
Hold
left of it.
on. I've got to play devil's advocate for Craig now, you bastard. Don't make me do this. No. Obviously, it's subject to the rate of distance and all the rest of it that everything else would be applicable in sphere-shaped air. So while it might be off by 1/fraction of 1 millimetre or something, doesn't mean you're going to miss your car keys when you go to pick them up. Based on the assumption, though, it still doesn't alter the fact that if you have sphere-shaped air, that means you're looking through air. In their world, their air is sphere-shaped, and it's bending the light, refracting the light, making the light deviate from straight at a given rate. Always without exception. So in technical terms, you might think, oh, I can laugh my head off. But if you actually tried to put Craig in a corner, he'd say no, and he'd give the explanation I gave, because I understand fundamentally what they're claiming and how that would necessitate that something that you're looking at 3 inches away from your own nose isn't strictly where you think it is, because technically the air's sphere-shaped, even to a very small degree. Doesn't mean you're going to miss your keys, though. However, that implication leaves you with no straight lines to anything ever. So therefore a sextant cannot be used on a sphere because you don't have a straight line and it's a tool that measures straight lines. Now, obviously, if you understand how a sextant works and you're a cum virus, you're going to tell us how it works and say, well, you just got to look at the horizon and assume you've got a straight line to it. Yeah, welcome to Flat Earth, Mr. Refracted!
But as a person who wants to defend the anti-flat earthers on this position alone, I would say that my hand is warm-blooded, but the keys are cold on the table. And so that might cause extreme variations. And
The whole cold or hotness of your keys or hand make no difference to terrestrial refraction. That's atmospheric refraction, which is based purely on a derivative of an R value. That is all it is based on. Now, while you can fiddle with the ratio to your heart's content to make your fantasy sphere mathematics match up with a picture that is represented in perspective view with your orthographic Muppet vision that excludes perspective, you can fudge those numbers to show your side of your own head and a curved line meeting the horizon or any target that you're looking at, and have it still match up because you've basically uncurved the assumption of a curved Earth beneath you at a given rate that kind of matches with what you see in a perspective view that isn't represented in the maths. But that doesn't change or alter the fact that the heat of your hand has nothing to do with that, only R has something to do with terrestrial refraction, because it's based on R, it's the only constant.
So a sniper, when the sniper is shooting now, they have their phony Coriolis, but now they gotta not aim at the target.
No, they do. They aim, they shoot, they fire, they kill. That's how snipers operate. They don't take into consideration that there is a atmospheric effect bending and lensing and refracting and deviating from straight the target that they're supposed to be looking at, i.e. at a long distance it's not really where they think it is. It's just a mirage. No, it's not a mirage. They can look at it, shoot it. So, yeah, fear the sniper. Don't think, oh, well, if he can see me, I'm actually behind Earth curve if I'm beyond 1.2 miles of his observer height when he's looking at me. So I've just got to get beyond that and suddenly I'm a mirage. Yeah, until your head bursts open.
I don't think any baller snipers could hold the job down. They'd be missing all the time.
It's a fantasy. None of this is applied. While it might be a nice idea to think that you've got sphere-shaped air and everything that reaches your eye is bent through that sphere-shaped air, atmosphere, that isn't actually the way the world works. Now, yeah, light does deviate from straight to a very tiny margin. It's basically negligible, though. Did miss a super
The
chat.
influence of actual refraction is minute, and it's very rare that it goes beyond that minute influence.
I'd like to have Virus come on the live show and defend his position. If he's willing.
He might join. We'll see. He already had a pasting and a
said he
hammering
was
over
gonna
this,
join
and
in,
it
yeah.
left him in pain, so I doubt he will. But I'm going to shout out Jules Luds again. I don't know why you're giving me so many super chats, but I'm not going to turn them down, especially as I've got stuff to pay for. So thank you very much indeed for the super chat, first and foremost, Jules Luds, who says, today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments, and they wander off through equation after equation and eventually build a structure which has no relation to reality. Nikola Tesla. Thank you very much for the super chat. Very pertinent, Jules Luds. Really appreciate your support.
Kumovirus said he was going to join during the after show, so get ready.
Whatever.
Get ready?
For what? He's already told
For
us.
a barbecue!
He's already told us. You draw a straight line out to the horizon. Well, where'd you get it if you've got a sphere belief? The answer is he doesn't. And he laughed about it. Yeah, the light is all bending to my eye. Yeah, on a sphere it is. But you need a straight line to the horizon. It's the end of the globe argument, and it's proof we're on a flat plane. It's as simple as that. There's nowhere to go. We've already had the argument with him.
You know, he admitted yesterday that the radius from a sun's GP, that's 3,000 nautical miles from you, the observer holding the sextant, that radius is straight. He admitted to that. Then how'd you get that? Well, you have to have the circle of equal altitude, and anywhere on the circle, it's the same 3,000 nautical miles. So it doesn't matter where you are on that circle of equal altitude until you take your second sighting and get a second circle where it could cross over two parts of the circle. Now you're either at the top one or the bottom one. But not even on that one, you're still whatever distance away on any part of that circle, which means in navigation, the whole purpose of the circle of equal altitude is that an observer could be anywhere on that circle and the nautical miles do not change, and it's a radius from the GP to you. So he's already admitted that 3,000 miles is flat straight. That's a highway 180. That's highway 180 is that radius. Welcome to Flat Earth.
Right. And I'm happy to linger in this particular position, you know, while it sinks in. Like the black swan, it slowly simmered up to a nice rolling boil. But initially, a lot of people didn't get it. A lot of people came back with a stupid rebuttal like, at best you've debunked the radius. Like, yeah, that's right. We have. That's a big problem, though, if you've got a radius belief and an assumption of that radius for every single argument that you make, right? If we've broken it, then every argument you make is broken. So, yeah, maybe not be so quick in responding to it. You should have waited and actually fell into the trap we laid. Rather than just flat out giving us the fact that it's debunked the radius, fall into the refraction trap so you can bark refraction at us. Tell us how the horizon's refracted, so then when we ask you about how you get a straight line as defined to the horizon, you tell us that you just assume it's straight and flat. So we can welcome you to Flat Earth.
I mean, where are they? Where are all the guys that told us, guys, we have an atmosphere, therefore we can never measure to the geometric horizon? But where are they now? I don't know. I don't get it. It's very weird.
Nathan, I sent you a few slides today, but go to the last one I just sent you.
Okay, got it.
So here you got two circle of equal altitudes. First GP, second GP, and then you've got two places it can cross. Then when you bring this to your chart, you could see that it's two lines crossing each other for your actual position. And then this is where you get the azimuth part of it and get the bearing to the GP. That's 3,000 miles away or whatever in this case. But you can see on the map and chart, the arc of that circle looks like two straight lines intercepting. This was the Wallabaloo from yesterday. We were talking about the radius of the GP to the observer. That is always straight. We're not talking about bringing a massive circle where every part of it, you're the same distance to the GP and putting it on the chart. Obviously, it's going to look like two lines crossing at that point. So this slide gives a little bit more understanding.
Yeah, we discussed this bait and switch in the pre-show. Very good. Good slides. Yeah, that makes it a lot more. I understood it after your concise explanation in the pre-show, but I'm glad you've done it again for the live audience, because I didn't recognise what was happening when this whole bait and switch between these two curved lines intersecting, looking like on a small piece of map you've got two straight lines. Oh, well, that's nice. Meanwhile, we were describing how you've got a GP from the a line of position from the GP to this position where you're actually measuring it, and all of that line has to be straight and flat to get 90 degrees up to this star. In other words, from this position, as it's depicted looking down on it in this diagram, down to here is considered straight and true, like a plumb line. Zenith, if you will, for the star. That gives you your GP. Ground position, here, below the star, and then 90 degrees to it is where you're measuring it. And what you're measuring is an angle to it. So you get your angle, and then the rest of it is a straight line to it with 90 degrees to the top of the star where you measured the angle. That gives you your full triangle, right?
Yeah. If you go to the very last slide I just sent you, it shows the basis for the line of position from the celestial observation. So the outer circle is called circle of equal altitude for observed altitude. That's what you actually got with your sextant. The inner circle is circle of equal altitude for computed altitude. That's from your dead reckoning and where you think you are. So once you have where you think you are, and then you match that to your actual observation with the sextant, you are now exactly where you are. And that's where they have you draw that tangent line that creates a 90 to the GP. Now you set course to your azimuth bearing to the GP. The sextant argument is about the star's GP to the observer, not the methodology of site reduction errors and corrections that have to be made, which there are many. And the reason they're made is for the purpose of getting exact bearing and distance. So dip correction minusing how high above the ocean surface you are with your eyes, that's just so that it can get back to that flat plane so that you're less than a half a mile to a mile away from your target. If you don't do that, you're going to be way off, which means you have to correct the sextant to work on a flat Earth in order to get you to a half a mile from your target. Imagine that, having to treat the sextant that's working on a flat plane for it to work.
The line that 10th is describing from the GP to your measuring position, 10th said that's the most important line. Why? Well, because the line down to that point, this GP position in this diagram, directly above where this is depicted, because it's directly bird's eye view directly overhead, the star is directly above this GP position, right? In other words, if you look at the triangle that's being drawn from this vantage point, you only see one line, because the line to the star essentially has the same exact view as the line along the ground that's straight and flat. Now, the line up, the one that I can't draw with my mouse because it's directly below this GP labelled position, is where the star is. Well, that means that you've got 90 degrees from this position where my mouse is to where you are as an observer. You have a straight, flat line. And it must be. Mathematically, it's going to become the radius of this circle. So therefore, it must be straight. That's what radii are. Straight lines to the centre, that's what they are. And that is what is your line to get the angle to the star. For 90 degrees to be applicable to calculate it as a triangle, you've got to have this 90 degrees for this triangulation to work. And you can only have that 90 degrees if Earth is flat.
Well, the 90 degree from each star position must also be parallel. Well, that's basically what we're saying, but in case it's
No,
lost
that's
on
correct.
anyone.
I'll put that up as well. I've got the diagram for that. Carry on, Eli.
Yeah, it's just that all positions that are 90 degrees, they have to be parallel. That's how you get your fix. There's no other way.
Spot on. So every star that's positioned on a flat plane, each has an area of equal altitude around it. Now, each line out to the 90 degree position, which must be a flat plane for this to be 90 degrees, has stars above each position. And what Eli's saying is, each of the lines down to the 90 degree box that can move back towards your measuring position, each of these lines down from the star are parallel with one another. Not curving away from each other, parallel. And they must be, because every one of these triangles assumes you've got 90 degrees below the star to your position in every single measurable instance. Therefore, there is tens of thousands of square miles that is flat in every single measurable example. Earth is flat. Just going to do a quick shout out to Jules Luds again. Wow, so much support. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. I will say it every single time. I never get bored of it. It scrolled off the screen, so you're going to have to bear with me. Here we go. I support this channel because I believe you and your team are making a positive change in this world. Wow, thank you. Come on, Virus. How does the sextant work on a ball? Question mark. Thank you again for the super chat, Jules Luds. It doesn't. You can't get this 90-degree angle on a curved surface, and as you look out towards the horizon on a ball, it's refracted. Therefore, this line is always bent on a globe, without exception.
Nathan, if you go to the very last slide I just sent you.
Done.
Observed altitude from sextant. If we measure the altitude of the sun at 32 degrees, how far are we from the GP? Well, there's your 90 that they want to avoid, minus your 32, you're 58 degrees. 58 degrees, each degree is 60 nautical miles, or 69 statute miles. So we're going to go with nautical miles. 58 times 60, you're 3,480 nautical miles away from the GP of the sun. Notice the straight lines that are necessary for this. And notice that the observer has a zenith position also drawn.
Can I just interject here, Tent? You know what we was talking pre-show and the switcheroo we were given? This is a great set of numbers you've given here. 32 degrees, 3,480 miles. That's the radius. And it's just to think about the amount of curvature that would be applied over 3,480 miles.
That's exactly what I thought, Adam.
Bending the line.
Yep. That's insane.
Yeah. And ultimately, the maths you cannot perform if you're measuring out two 90-degree positions below the star, if the line between you and it is bent, because it's no longer measurable as a radius for the circle of equal altitude. Circle of equal what now? Equal altitude. A massive area that's all at the same level. Level. That would be flat. So if that line's bent, it's not a radius. This maths can't be done.
Adam, are you working on the math?
Oh, well, not really. I could do it, but that curvature would be just. I will do it in a sec. But that curvature that we just expressed there would be the differential in equal altitudes. So, what was it? 3,480. I'll just do it off.
You're a little bit quiet, Adam. Anyway, you can make yourself a little louder.
Yeah, sorry, I'll sit up. That's because I was just going to do some numbers. But that number would be the differential in the altitude differences, won't it? Because you're going to calculate the drop based on them, stick it on a ball. Now, if that's got a flat R, which it should have, then the curvature of the Earth will generate an altitude difference. So just give me a sec.
You're right, and I applaud you, and I'm glad you're going to do the maths just to lay it out for its absurdity. But by the same token, I'm not suggesting you brush past my fantastic point. The moment you start calculating that, you are implying that there is a curved line from you to the outside edge of the circle of equal altitude, correct?
Yeah.
No, not correct ever. Can't be done that way. So this is just for while you're doing it. I'm trying to buy you time, Adam. You'll have to reply.
The thing that allows you to be able to just take a degree is the knowledge that line's flat. It means there are certain knowns within the maths, the trigonometry, that allow you to then calculate the other things with trigonometry. If that line's curved, there's no trigonometry you can do to solve it. You then have to know the distance already to the GP to give the degree angle some significance for you to adjust it to put it on a ball.
Hold on. You have to know the distance. What's the point of doing this again? Isn't it to figure out where you are because you don't know?
Yes.
So you need to know already for it to work on a sphere?
Yeah, because otherwise you wouldn't know. You need to know how far you are away to figure out how much Earth curvature or drop in altitude you need to accommodate for to get your exact thing measurement to calculate where you are.
I see. So on a sphere, you'd need to know precisely where you are on a sphere to know how much drop there is applicable to the GP of the star when deriving a curved radius that won't be able to be used for a circle of equal altitude or get you a 90 degree to the parallel lines of the stars which are no longer parallel. Wow, this is a total clusterfuck.
I've got 2 slides from Mitchell's wonderful presentation of the sextant. You can go to those.
Is the Polaris one the starting slide?
Yes, you can see that he's taken a circle of equal altitude and Polaris is in the middle to GP. And then 15 degrees from both sides of the circle. So if someone's on the other side and someone's on the opposite side. And that would be an area of 10,370 miles flat. Now, if you go to the next slide, he does a wonderful work here of showing all the navigational stars that are listed in the Nautical Almanac, total of 64, counting the sun, moon, Aries, and the wandering stars. And you could see that if you just do circle of equal altitudes and wherever they cross, you pretty much prove the Earth is flat with all the GPs having to be straight radiuses.
Every one of these circles depicted has a straight line from the centre, which would be the GP of the star, to whatever area is being measured to give you an angle that must have a vertex and 2 straight lines meeting. Therefore, every circle on this map is flat.
Yeah, if you look at the ship illustration on the right side of this image, you can see how many circles are intersecting. So, you know, they say 3 is really good to get a fix, but he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think he's got 7 or more. And look at the areas that they cover. All that has to be flat because all that has to have a radius that's a straight. And they admit radius lines don't bend. So it's over for them.
Yeah, it's game over. Give props to Mitchell. Been watching his live streams, and he's out in nature early morning, looking at the horizon over a long distance. Obviously, very good backdrop to have for a live stream. But he's got clear audio, and he's got an iPad that he's obviously figured out in advance where he can position it so it's not got any horrible reflections and all the rest of it. And he does good quality, pre-thought out, well-presented presentations live out on location. Broadcast live with proper slide-based... No, it's obviously not got a producer off somewhere in a van cut into a proper slideshow because he's one man. But by the same token, what he's managed to achieve as one man on location, live, I was in awe. I was like, man, I like your style, Mitch. This is cool. Now, don't get me wrong, there's lazy people that have got a computer in front of them that can just, because they're lazy, produce a video and shove an iPad in front of the camera to show what they're showing. That isn't what I'm talking about. It's needs must in this scenario. In order for him to do what he does on his live show, he has to pre-prepare the slides and figure out how he's going to present them on camera. And he's done it in such a manner that you don't see the fact that it's being done on an iPad in front of it. You just see the data that he's presenting with his smooth, dulcet tones presenting it, and the point being made concisely with images to go along with it. But while I'm on location, I mean, that to me is so difficult. I know how hard what he does is. And my hat's off to you, Mitchell from Australia. Is it Mitchell from Australia or is it India? Australia. Mitchell from Australia. Subscribe today. His accent just throws me.
Yeah, I caught his live stream yesterday. It's pretty awesome.
He's good, isn't he?
Also,
He's good, isn't he?
Yeah, he is good, man. I mean, I already like him as it is. Like he's just a smart, freaking like he's going in, and I love it. It's awesome what he's doing. I didn't really. Go ahead.
No, I heard him say that it took him 8 months to do that Sextant presentation. So he's a great researcher. Let's not. I mean, the guy does his research before he puts something out. That's why. That's the first official, other than our own team. I mean, Brian's Logic did something, Flatsort did something, but and now I see Mitchell, putting that thing, that presentation together, and I'm watching it and I'm going, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. I mean, he just did so much research before he produced that video. So I can't say enough how well he did his research.
Yeah, I can't give enough props at the moment to Mitchell from Australia. So subscribe today, look him up, you'll find him. Because he's got a distinct name that's nice and clear and laid out without strange capital letters and joined up words that shouldn't be and all that kind of crap. Mitchell from Australia.
Yeah, he doesn't have any of that.
I got your back at him.
Can I also give another shout out to Jaren? Because I caught episode 2 of the NASA Comedy Hour.
Of course you can. Yes, indeed. Jaren's on fire at the moment.
God.
Go right ahead.
Oh my God! If you're not watching Jaren's NASA Comedy Hour,
It's hysterical.
It is the funniest. Again, I'll say it like I said last time. I don't know what happened to Jaren. I didn't know he was a comedian, but oh my God, the way he's going over this old NASA footage right now is the most hilarious thing that I've heard in a long time.
I like Jaren's sense of humour. I don't know, about a year or two ago, I noticed he was promoting a really obscure guy that I was subscribed to called Plant-Based Comedian. Now, I've got a pretty obscure sense of humour, and I like that particular guy. And then when I heard Jaren shouting him out, I'm like, obviously we've got similar senses of humour. That's another someone else to go into. You might hesitate to recommend plant-based comedian because he's not for everyone. But, you know, shout out to you, my friend. Either way, Jaren's got a good sense of humour. And, I don't know, it just seems like he's had a return to this subject where, I don't know why, it seemed like he drifted away from it for a prolonged period of time. Now he's back with a vengeance. And, you know, delivering your message through humour is the best way to do it. And, again, big props.
You don't have Bob breathing down his neck when he's on his
It's
own.
like the sarcasm.
I trust bloody Neil to
level
ruin
went,
everything. Shut up, Neil.
It's like his
It's
sarcasm
true.
level went
You don't
through
have
the
to breathe
roof.
down his neck.
Or how about because his channel was always apart from anyone else and he worked really hard on his channel, he was getting copyright struck and he was trying to protect his content. So maybe he's went over TOS, maybe he's trying a different angle, and maybe it's working for him, Neil.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Jules Ludds, another super chat. Thank you so much. Not only is the flat Earth humanity once harnessed free energy from the ether using Tartarian architecture, I believe. Alrighty then. Thank you very much for the super chat.
I want to shout out a line from it, but I don't even want to do it on the live show.
You want to shout out who?
A line from there's something that Jared said last night, but I won't even do it on the live show. It's too funny.
Why not?
All right, so so he said he's watching some old NASA footage, and he's going like somebody's talking about some article that one of the NASA guys wrote, and he's reading it out, and he's just like, look at this, this is ridiculous. Who can write? Who can write like this with NASA's little baby dick in your mouth? I was just like, oh my god, what happened to Jerry, man? This is fantastic. And then he was looking at Hubble pictures, and he put on like the clown theme. He's like, yay, look at these. Yo, I mean, it was like 1 a.m, and I was like literally had tears coming down my eyes. Jared was killing me. So shout out to Jared. I'll shut up now.
No, I'm gonna. Okay, high praise, man. It's worthy. You don't have to apologise for giving kudos where it's definitely warranted. And as I said on the last couple of shows, I haven't watched Jaren for ages. I don't know why. Just whatever he was putting out there, I wasn't picking up for whatever reason. Occasionally, I'd tune in. But like you say, suddenly someone returns to form. You're gonna shout them out a lot and say, "I really enjoy it. Go and watch it." That's how stuff gets popular, because people enjoy it and will word of mouth say, "I enjoyed this particular YouTuber." If, like me, I assume that if I've done this, there's other people out there that have done the same, right? So if you're one of the people like me who happen to find yourself watching Jaren less, go and watch him again. If you're not already, realise what's happening. You're going to like it if you like this.
Yeah, I love it.
But I'm back on math.
It's the sarcasm of it, though, right? He's looking at the globe. He's like, "Yeah, look at that. Yeah, that's real. Yeah. Oh, yay! Look at it turning. Yay!"
I can't.
It's so great.
I can't wait for the after show, because Akumo just said those circles aren't flat. How do they feel comfortable cherry picking this information? Why do the Globers always project?
Maybe we'll find out in the after show, but with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat. I think actually that just came in. Let's have a look. Indeedy do. So, Retro Bill says, Nathan's Bugak is ace. Well, thank you very much indeed, Retro Bill. I appreciate the support and appreciate the super chat. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
It turns out to be 128,320,200 inches, which is 2,025 miles, which I knew was wrong. Once you get into big numbers like this, the 8 inches per mile squared approximation really goes off. So it's not very useful there. So I've then done it using my formula that I calculated, 3959 minus 3959 times the cosine of the distance multiplied by 0.0145, which gives you a much more accurate number. And that then turns out to be a much smaller number of a difference in altitude on your circle of equal altitude of 1,865.707 miles. So, yeah, your feet are 1,865 miles lower on the edge. Or that's the differential in your flat plane or to your curved ball.
Say it another way.
It ain't. It's impossible to draw a circle of equal altitude when one point, the center is at one height, and the other will be by geometric necessity of being on a ball 1,865 miles lower than the other position.
Adam can only speak intellectually. Can't get him to speak any other way.
Well, can you? The whole idea is that you're getting an angle, and you can't get an angle off a curved surface using the sextant, right? So it dies right there.
Yeah. If we go back
guarantee
to
you.
the original picture, observed altitude from sextant, we've got the 32 degrees and the GP, where the star is. That line would not be straight. It would be curved at a rate so that the GP would actually be 1,865 miles lower than the equal position it holds right now. Whatever scale you want to put on that, but basically the positional change, which means you can't no longer define a flat line from your GP to your observer because it's 1,865 miles lower.
Right. So regulating the sextant as inoperable.
Correct.
Yeah, that's negligible.
That's the trouble with cumulative curvature, you see. So when you're dealing with stuff on the ground, you can kind of negate it. But when you're dealing with things in the sky, you can see so much further that the play out of the cumulative curvature just becomes ridiculous. You look at that, you've only gone half of the distance is drop, yeah, because it just starts to accumulate and accumulate. So half of your distance now is actually described in drop as well. What happens on balls?
All right, Virus, come with your Hillary Clinton projection defensive argument. We're waiting.
Oh, let me refract this cigarette real quick.
He might have meant the after show when we're all gone, because that's where they talk about how we don't understand anything.
He might not be able to hear. He might have a fag in his ear.
What's the radius of that?
I don't know.
Well,
I'm willing to bet he's picking a moment that one of us says something that's close enough to what he will actually pervert.
Well, I told him yesterday after he answered the way he did, then there's no hope for you. Because you can't communicate with people who change the meaning of words to suit whatever argument they want. And that's what he was doing.
That was well placed when you said that too. I agreed 100% with you. That's
I mean, it's
how
just,
I felt too.
yeah, it's just a waste of time at this point because straight is not straight. And then he said it's straight. And then the argument about the black swan, refraction. Well, Virus destroyed Refraction yesterday and the argument they had against the Black Swan. The Sextant brought him to that point. Then it was like, then he went and admitted it. Then it's like, okay, well, I'm done talking to you because how can anyone reach you? Can't hold two sides of an argument that are so opposite one to another and say, you know more.
They don't realize that all of these arguments are related. They seem to have a problem with that, right? So in one argument, they think that, you know, saying refraction is cool in the gang, but then the next argument where you need a straight line, all of a sudden you don't want to revert back to that old argument where you said you can't ever have a straight line ever because everything's always refracted, always, every time, always, everywhere, because we have an atmosphere, right? So all of a sudden now it's a problem. Now you get a nervous laugh, you get my cigarette. That's what you get now, right? Because now your own side tells you everything's bending always, everywhere, all the time, right? That's why you guys spit refraction at us for a year and a half.
But see, the thing is,
all of a sudden that's a problem. Okay.
The thing is, Globers are like that blanket that's, you know, just a tad bit too short. And the night is cold. So whenever they try to cover one area, you know, now my feet, now I got to put it over my feet, but now my shoulders are cold. That's the globe. Every time you try to patch up one part, another part presents.
That's awesome, Eli. That is great.
I got to give it to you. You're the king of analogies, boy.
That reminds me of a cold night camping as a kid. I remember that.
Yo, that analogy is just got
Can't pull the wool over my eyes because the wool's too small.
Right.
That's a blanket statement.
Doesn't have to be virus. Is there another Glober in here who would like to tell us that
I'm
how everything's always bending? Everything's always refracted, always.
I'm picturing these anti-flat earthers and ballers with these arguments, pulling covers to try and get themselves. It's in my mind now. They can't go nowhere. Something's going to be out in the open.
No, I think it's over for them. They've been hit so many times with their own inconsistency of their own positions that some of them are just listening to the shows after Nathan puts it back on, and they got to be hurting, man. They just got to be. I mean, we're laughing, but they're hurt.
But think about it, that analogy, because they got nothing now. The whole blanket's been ripped from them, Eli. They can't even try to get warm somewhere.
They're just shriveling up in the night.
It's like when your mom used to come in when you didn't wake up, and then all of a sudden the cover got ripped off, and there you were, and it's freezing, just grabbing for that blanket.
Yeah, they've been, they're under this grand delusion that it's their decision not to come on the show because Nathan is too rude. Never mind all of the ridicule I've gotten since I've merely asked anyone, hey, you know, the moon landing, what are you, a flat earth? Oh my God, you people are annoying. You're all over the internet. Jeez, I hope you guys don't have any kids. Christ's sakes. And if you do, homeschool them. Don't bring them near my kids. Blah, blah, blah. Like all of that. And you can't, man.
And all I asked was, did you see the moon landing?
Listen, Eli, that's bull crap. Eli, that's bull crap, and you know it. Because I don't care how rude a person is. If you had evidence contrary to what they were saying, that you could knock them right out of the box, I don't care how rude that person is, you're coming on and you're saying, but wait a minute. What about this? And they're not. They can hide behind their little, oh, we're boycotting Nathan. We see right through you. You're not boycotting nothing. You have nothing. That's why you're not here.
Yeah, why weren't you boycotting, before the Black Swan and before? You had plenty of time to boycott. It's just funny enough. All of a sudden,
they've tried the boycott before. The first time, or it was years ago, I remember they tried the boycott because all of a sudden, what was it, Google Earth, which they were claiming was their model, wasn't their model anymore because it somehow didn't work. And they got very mad at that because we were like, hey, isn't this your model? No, it's not our model. And then all of a sudden they were very mad at that. And then right after like the whole Isle of Man shit, they all of a sudden wanted to start a little boycott. I don't think that worked out very well, but okay. I don't. Do you think that helps your argument?
No.
Shouldn't you actually be here making the argument?
Well, they aren't. That's the point. The people who are boycotting are anti-flat earthers, right? So they don't want to come and put a position that was formerly a refutation to a globe debunking by a flat earther, because they could scramble those eggs in confusion. For example, they could have a flat earther justifying why we would expect to see Earth turning underneath things. Now, because those arguments have all been picked apart, and it's like, yeah, you're not going to get away with coming here asking me why I'd expect to see drift, because we don't see any, when it's you claiming we have drift and we don't see any. That nice, concise summary, they don't like that. They want to be able to ask me why I'd expect to see drift. Right? Yeah, they don't get away with that crap anymore, so they don't come.
Akubu had the nerve to ask me, well, because he was saying you guys don't understand anything. You always misrepresent the globe. And he's like, what's Coriolis? I was like, I don't have time for your games. I'll tell the audience right now. So the Coriolis effect is one in the non-inertial reference frame witnessing something in the inertial reference frame appearing to drift. That's how it's defined. I didn't make that up. Just go ahead and Google it.
In case anybody challenges him, that's absolutely spot on.
As a New Yorker, I want to end every blow with a F out of here. But I want this to be a family show.
Man. Trust me, I've been there.
Challenge me like that. Look, bro, like I said, like Nathan said, I'm not an evangelist. I come here because I enjoy talking to you guys. And if there were a real person who wanted to come in, well, I guess everyone's a real person, but if you're a person who's genuinely seeking knowledge, we have a bit of it and we'll give it to you, no problem. But I'm not going to sit here and try to cram knowledge down your throat when you don't want it.
Not like those dick earthers do.
That's that funny shit, right? Like the episode that he was on the other day, the show the other day. Like, how do you keep asking Nathan every time he defines Coriolis for you? You're just gonna, what's Coriolis? Oh, it has nothing to do with Coriolis. But he's defined it for you, and you've never refuted the definition. So why wouldn't you just be intellectually honest and say, either concede or just say you don't know what the fuck you're talking about? Why are you just going to pretend that you don't even? I mean, I don't understand the mentality there. I just don't get it.
Well, Neil.
Oh, that's not how the globe defines the Coriolis.
Neil deGrasse
How many
Tyson.
times have I read it out? I mean, serious?
Neil deGrasse Tyson actually said what the references we read out with the football.
Yeah, that's your man's in them. Why is Neil deGrasse all under the bus? Oh, is it because he's saying that the Earth has to be rotating underneath this football in order for this football team to win a field goal? For a field goal? Really?
I was talking to the person I met up on my last trip where I caught this cold, and we talked yesterday. And he says, okay, just keep sending me the information. So I'm sending him stuff from our show, from Huey and all the stuff for him to catch up because he's really interested. And he says, okay, well, here's the numbers. That's what he told me. He said, I've shared it with 11 people. I'm going slow. I'm taking your advice to educate myself and learn the arguments and the fallacies. And of course, that's mainly with the anti-flat earthers. He's dealing mainly with normal people, but still, it's good for him to know. And I said, so what's happened since you've stepped out here? He says, 11 for 11. They're all flat earthers now.
I love it.
I just died laughing. So I think I sent them 7 more yesterday, links to shows that we all did and we all have a part in. And I can't wait for that number to grow. He says, hey, they want to meet you. So they all want to meet me now. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, well, that's lovely. Oh, nice. I like stories like that. Excellent.
Yeah. We don't need the anti-flat earthers or the ballers. We got plenty of recordings and old stories. We just go out there and share the information, and people who can add 2 and 2 equals 4 get it.
Did you want to hear, you're asking on the pre-show about your bit, if you will, Eli? Well, as it's convenient, and I've got I don't know what it is, 60 seconds-ish clip. It's from, what do they call it, hashtag shorts. You want to hear it?
Yeah, sure. Again, because I already played it twice while we were talking.
Oh, right, okay, fair enough. Well, I've got it up.
But
queued, so-
play it, please. Go ahead.
No, I want to hear it.
Gem Pandas, and they were educating me from Andrew Thomas Young's paper. They're saying, yeah, those light rays, they're curving to your eyeball, right?
Yeah, buddy.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
Oh, they are? So they're curving to your eyeball from the horizon then. So you haven't got a straight line to acquire for this tool, as you detailed it needing a straight line. You haven't got one. Ultimately speaking, we can never acquire a straight line to it, ever, according to your religious faith, in sphere-shaped air, and light always bending through it. That's a fact. Now, you haven't refuted that. You've just told me I can look at the horizon. Yeah, and if you look at the horizon and assume you've got a straight line to it, then you've got a straight line to the horizon. That would be a flat Earth that you're describing. Then we ask you to describe how that's acquirable, given that your globe always has bent lines, and the answer is you can't. Hence, this tool debunks the globe and proves Earth is flat.
Jeez, man. Hope y'all all enjoying the snacks in the back, because welcome to hell to flat Earth, bro. You clowns are so done. I mean, are y'all
that was
hilarious?
Yeah, it is.
Who'd have thunk it, eh? After 21 months of them telling us how refracted it is, suddenly they need a straight line. Oh, what do you know? When it comes to actually functioning on the plane we live on, yeah, straight lines, we just assume we see things because they're there, with a straight line to them. Yeah, shocking that. That's how reality is. But that's a big problem if you've got a curved Earth beneath your feet now, isn't it? Yeah. Refracted! Yeah, that's the problem now, though, isn't it? That rebuttal that you barked at us. Because it's not going to be so easy to deny it, is it?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, you guys can go.
when they were arguing the Black Swan since the inception, January 2020, that was just material for us to use against them at a later date, because they were coming at us with such crazy statements. And I was way off. I thought they would get it within, several months, but I was thinking like a logical person. So I didn't put myself in the shoe of a anti-flat earther, which at the time we didn't have that label. So in the shoe of an anti-flat earther, I'd like to correct my estimation. They will never get it because they're anti anything. But what they serve us for, at least from January 2020, is great comments and statements that can be used against them. So we thank you for that.
I've already said
I'll
they'll
never
get it.
forget. I'll never forget my face when, like, the way I felt when I started hearing, well, why would you expect to see the geometric rise? You never see it. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, but that's the curve of the Earth we're
Yep.
talking about. What? So they're now telling us, why would you expect to see the curve of the Earth?
Yep, that's what they're saying. Their rebuttal to the black swan is we never see Earth curve. Why would you expect to see Earth curve? The horizon isn't Earth curve. We're not looking at Earth curve. It's only existing in the maths. And further to that, as a little Brucey bonus cherry on top, at best you've debunked the radius. Those were the responses. To tell us that we don't see, cannot see, and it's only existing in maths, that's what Earth curve is now. Further to that, you can't get a radius. At best you've debunked it.
It just keeps getting better and better.
Why would
Well,
we
I think that
expect to see
Akuma
Earth
virus
curve?
did the
How
next
about it's a
step, really.
ball?
Again, Neil?
I said we wouldn't expect to see Earth curve.
That's what they tell us.
Although, if it's a ball, we're supposed to see Earth curve.
Yeah, they were hoping that it would turn into a position where we were charged with why we would expect to see Earth curve. Of course, you just take out the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator and slap it on the desk. Okay, see this X with the word horizon and everything based on its obstruction to the things behind that you quote as having a hidden value. That's Earth curve. So when you ask why I would expect to see Earth curve, I wouldn't. But you claim it's physical, geometric, and blocking things in the distance with a hidden and drop value. Marked with an X. Labelled horizon in your Earth curve maths. That's why you told us we would expect to see Earth curve at the horizon. Now you're telling us we wouldn't expect to see Earth curve. Yeah, Neil. That's the situation. Go ahead,
But
Arwin.
it's become so.
It's even
Can I
worse.
say
Hold on,
something?
hold on, Eli.
Yeah,
Hold
sorry,
on,
Arwin.
hold on. Go ahead, Eli. Arwin.
Ah, right. Yeah, things have become so convoluted and complicated, with terrestrial refraction making everything not where you see it. Like literally nothing is where you see it. Everything is warped. You gotta boggle the mind just to think how it was distorted from the actual ball it's supposed to be. That they're just gonna switch like Akumo did and just say, no, just forget about it. I just look at it, it's right there, right? It was just a thought experiment anyway.
Well, Black Swan, if your thought experiment was transposable onto the actual reality that we experience in our daily existence, then if you can just presuppose you've got a straight line to it, let's just say those two words together, ladies and gentlemen. Black Swan.
Black
Black Swan.
Swan.
I didn't mean that was rhetorical.
Right, but they're effectively conceding. They're conceding, but not relinquishing their belief, though.
They're not relinquishing reality. They're saying, I look at it and it's there, I've got a straight line to it, so my sextant works. Well, welcome to flat Earth. No, don't tell me that means it's flat. No, it does mean it's flat. No, it's just, in this instance, I don't assume the refraction that's always... Well, no, you have to, because you're on a ball in your fantasy world. So it's not just, I'm going to use a straight line now, you haven't got one. That's the end of the argument, I'm afraid.
Well, you know what the because at Jim Panda's it's funny because they said it has nothing to do with R. It has nothing to do with the curve of the Earth because we got to the point where obviously after all of the begging the question, they get to the point where they're like, no, look here, see, this is talking about how the light refracts through the atmosphere. So it just has to do with the ray curvature, has nothing to do with the surface of the Earth curving whatsoever. So they're not even talking about the Earth at all, according to them.
Well, what's defining the rate of curve of the ray?
That's what yo.
Right,
Adam?
R value.
Don't worry, whatever it is, it has nothing to do with the
R
curve of
value.
the Earth.
Curvature
R
calculator.
value. Hello.
No, Nathan. Shh.
Adam asked, what's defining the curve of the ray? Well, if you're on a sphere, you've got atmosphere. And what's going to dictate the rate that the ray is claimed to curve at? Well, the R value is the only constant that rate will be based on, Adam.
But didn't you hear the Globers?
That's
It has
exactly
nothing
what I
to do
told
with the
him.
curve of the Earth.
No, but I did tell them that. I said, no. Because as far as how they get the rate of curvature for the light ray, it's still done from the center of what? And they were like, you're a moron.
What, when you got them to the point where they're relinquishing their requirement for R and you point out where they absolutely unequivocally require R, and they call you a moron? That's called an ad hominem attack now, isn't it? A logical fallacy where you don't refute the argument, or refutation of the argument in this instance, and instead you call your opponent a name, instead of an argument refutation, or rebuttal. Yeah, wonderful rebuttal.
Well, where is that rebuttal? I thought Virus was coming on.
There is no rebuttal. The moment you point out that they need an R value, then you need to acquire it by way of a dip angle measurement, Al-Biruni style to the geometric physical horizon. Oh, of course, you brush over the fact that you've got to use a flat plane to measure the height of the mountain in the first place. Obviously, we won't focus on that. As globe-believing morons, we will, though, as flat earthers. Yo, anti-flat earthers! Did you know that Al-Biruni assumed the Earth was flat before he derived the R value by an assumption of a physical Earth curve edge you tell us we can't see anymore? Did you know that? 'Cause we do. Thanks, Adam.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, Brian.
Hey, what's up, Brian?
Hey, Brian.
Yo, there was a... Oh, yeah, yesterday. You weren't here. And when... Oh, man, you missed it when we were talking about getting your eyeball to the surface of the water so that you can look straight out and look at that corner pocket. And I was like, man, I wish Brian was here.
Was that with Virus? I heard the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you don't, like Virus was talking about a straight line with his eyes, denying that line is actually curved, on his model. But if you don't bring that vertex down to the water, then it's not geometric; it's optical. So you'll end up having an optical argument if you don't bring it to the surface. But if you bring the vertex to the surface, then there's a geometric argument.
Oh, that's funny, being that they keep telling us about optics lately. Isn't that funny? So they don't even want to bring it down to that geometric level. Why? They can't.
Because it's flat in this instance, because we've got a straight line to the GP when you're drawing a straight line to make it a geometric measurement rather than an optical one, which is Brian's point. Then you've got a geometric argument. And the assumption of that geometry, well, what is that geometry? Oh, it'd be flat, right, Brian?
Yeah, and it's Euclidean as well, because you're using angles. It's not going to be non-Euclidean, as they like to go to.
A diagram for that. Model. So, while you're describing what Euclidean means, I'll go and get the slide that I'm going to use to make this example. Bear with me. Oh, I found it. Okay, so we've got length, breadth, and depth. And what have we got in terms of the positions of these three stars? Well, they're all parallel. The GP to all of them is parallel. So we're going to work in a Euclidean framework. Yeah? Well, the dimensionality of that framework isn't bending. Straight, flat, a grid, basically, Brian. Would you not agree? That's the most simplistic way to describe it.
Exactly, a grid. Euclidean is like a grid. It's horizontals and verticals. That's what it is. Because that's reality. That's how we measure the Earth, the horizontals and verticals. And if you're talking about the vertex of the angle taken by the sextant, or by the observer to the sextant, then you're talking about like obviously the GP or the zenith distance, as it's also called, from the vertex to the GP of the celestial body you've chosen. That is a radius line, and they can never, like even yesterday I heard a Virus, he couldn't deny that the radius was a straight line. So if that vertex is brought down to be a geometric, it's not a visual kind of a made up radius line. Then it's a geometric radius line, and no matter what geometry to try and use, you can't change that from being a straight line.
And further to that, you can't get the 90 degree unless all of the stars are parallel to the positions that you're measuring at their GP. So this box, this 90-degree line, relies on you having a straight line, and as Brian describes, it's going to be a radius. Hence, on this diagram, although you can't see R3, they are marked R1 and R2. R, the line to the GP from the measuring position. The vertex that Brian's describing is the angle to the star, and the straight flat line that's going to give you 90 degrees to the position below that star. So this radius value is a flat, straight line because it's being done geometrically, not optically. You're working out the position on a flat map using Euclidean grid lines to do so. Not bending away because it wouldn't work. Has to be flat. Earth is flat.
Nathan, I posted some extra slides on the one that's azimuth angle and altitude angle, black and white with a yellow sun. Can you go to that one? Because it's point we're talking about, I believe.
I've got a big circle. Oh, here we go. Got it.
Yeah, so here it is. The altitude angle is vertical, as Brian said. Two straight lines meeting at the vertex. And the azimuth angle is horizontal. Two straight lines meeting at the vertex. Can't work on a curve to get the GP. The radius can't bend. It's right here. It's in their own description of how to get the bearing to that GP after you sight the star with the sextant.
Honestly,
Like
think
playing
that there's-
Cool, right?
I just want to add something to this. 10th. This, with this diagram on screen, well, after that point being made, I'm sorry to cut you off, Eli. There's going to be a certain number of people who are on the fence in the most literal terms. They can't see the silver bullet that proves it's flat. This is it. And there's going to be more people, I feel, that recognise this now that the response cannot use anything other than refraction. As soon as you start measuring stuff with straight lines and GPs and zenith positions that are all parallel, the moment you start describing how this functions in reality, it can't be a sphere anymore. There's no way around it, and the rebuttal is even more ludicrous to now brace against the black swan rebuttal of refraction. You know, it makes it so absurd that I feel that this description that we're now getting more and more detailed and more concise about with the sextant and how the functionality of the land is actually utilised will convert people. More people who were formerly on the fence and just felt that they could get around it with refraction. It's like, okay, well, you got around it with refraction that time. How are you going to make that refracted line straight again now that you can't? Because this is actually taking place in reality.
Well,
Agreed 100%.
what they're doing in their mind is they're bringing it like with the, let's say, just optically, when you just, but if we don't bring in the horizon dip correction, they are making a straight line to their local horizon with the rise, and then that line is carrying on right in what they think is a straight line, let's say like a longitude line, carrying on down along the surface of their globe. So their radius in their mind is the straight line from the rise to the horizon. And then that carries on down along their globe. Right? Forgetting that in the Black Swan rebuttal they gave, it's that, although it's not a rebuttal, but what they thought was a rebuttal is that light is always bent because their 7/6R bends the light at all times. But when you do horizon dip correction, then that's the tricky part, because they can't even claim that the vertex to the horizon is a straight line, because on their model, although they might try and claim it and kind of in their own mind,
No, keep going. Don't get the Weasley bit in. Just carry on.
Yeah, but the problem is that when you bring that vertex down to the water line, it's then geometric. So how can they then work with a straight radius line? The only thing they can do is try and claim that it's straight from them, from underneath their boat at the waterline to the local horizon, but the rest then starts to curve. And even that doesn't work because the whole thing has to be straight. But that's what they have to do inside their own mind. But the truth of the matter is, when you bring the horizon dip correction into it, it makes it geometric, which means that radius line can never bend at any point. It has to be straight.
Beautifully summarised, Brian. And I'm going to take my hat off to you, because initially this started with a row and you putting your foot down to make sure we understood this point, which I definitely didn't until you concisely summarised it a couple of days ago, and have now reiterated it beautifully just now. Indeed, you've got to take it down to the ground, because suddenly you're talking about geometry, which has got rules. Now, in this particular instance, when you're talking about vertex measurement, you're talking about straight lines. So the dip correction, to get the accuracy, to make it work in the most accurate way, takes your eye out of the equation, because you're suddenly talking about a geometrically straight line to the horizon and beyond, as Brian's just summarised. Now, formally, they'd say, well, no, we just assume that we can look out and see a straight line, the one that we told you was refracted for the last 21 months. Brushing over that. But then beyond that, it dips away at 8 inches per mile squared, or whatever they're going to make up thereafter. Well, no. Because you're doing a dip correction, because you're getting your eye to the ground, you're essentially ignoring all refraction. So where 10th Man was describing it, not taking it into account, it cuts through all the refraction. Well, no, Brian's actually, sorry, 10th Man, made a much better job of pointing out how this is critical to the argument, because it becomes factually geometric upon doing the dip correction. Taking your eye line to the flat surface that we actually operate on means that you can only assume the natural geometry of this triangle. That would be a flat plane, with the line to the GP being the radius of the circle that's all flat all around you, and must be, because you're not taking into account optics now. You're just calculating it geometrically with a triangle. And what's the bottom of that triangle? Well, it's straight. Well, it might be able to bend. Well, no, it can't, because then you haven't got 90 degrees, and it's not a triangle anymore. So, unfortunately, Brian's point is absolutely critical to this argument. Because then no longer can you even argue about whether or not we've got refraction. It makes no difference. You just get your eye line down to the ground, and whatever you can see at whatever distance it may be, makes no difference. It's flat to it. We're only going to take into account the geometric nature of this triangle. And the way it works on the flat map is how it functions, with a flat bottom and a flat ground beneath your feet. That's how it works. So Brian is absolutely right to have stuck his foot down and got angry with us for not understanding this critical detail. Long may it be reiterated by Brian. Thank you for doing it, Brian.
Go to the last slide I sent you.
Wait. I'm still waiting.
Hang on. The last slide I sent you is the slide I put up the other day. There was never an argument with Brian on this point by me ever.
I didn't say there was.
So tell me when you got a slide up.
I've got it up. Year of the Sextant, 2021.
Highway 180.
Go ahead, Eli.
That's how it works.
Perfect. Go ahead, Eli.
Yeah, so earlier I was gonna make a joke about the ball on a pool table hitting the corner pocket. Well, its angle from where the ball touches the surface of that table to the where the corner pocket is, that angle is 0. Just like there's literally a 0 when you're looking at the baseline for this right triangle. The line that we're concerned with, the one that we'll be traveling along, is a straight line. The angle is 0. It's not curving in any way, shape, or form.
Beautiful. Good day. Good day to be a flat earther.
The corner pocket.
Say again? About corner pockets?
Sorry, Nathan. No, I like this. Basically taking and putting it on a pool table. I like that.
Look what I posted in the chat too, along with the 10th Man. Because I said, well, what is it? Because I'm thinking I'm just making stuff up, because I just say things based on my understanding, and I look around to see if anybody has a problem with it. Like yesterday when I was like 2 tangents, whatever. So I was like, okay, zero angle. What does that look like in Google? Lo and behold, it's a line.
Yeah, indeed you do. No, don't worry about it. I mean, we'll call you on it. If you say something that, I don't know what you said yesterday, you gave it for a bit of pajazz or whatever. Forgot the word you used. Anyway, you know, I said this at the time, but there was a commenter that pointed this out. There is the bullshit filter here is very, very fine. The mesh is fine. Yeah? And that means that if you're sat in the sieve, it doesn't matter what side of the argument you're on. Very, very little of the bullshit dribbles through that sieve. Doesn't matter who you are. So, you know, sometimes people say things and they just get called out almost immediately. There's very rare occasions that something will just slip by. Normally because it's in a load of other diatribe. What I'm trying to say is the standards are high. Would you not agree? Our standards as flat earthers have to be, I'm not exaggerating when I say a factor of 10 more, what's the word? Concise, more accurate, more well researched, all of those things. We have to be on our game 10 times more than our opponents do, who can literally make a complete balls up of some explanation or talk complete gibberish about how you know something's food. You know, a complete non sequitur response to a nonsensical discussion. That will get a pat on the back from our opponents between themselves. Literally. Now, there is no level of nonsensical buffoonery that they won't get pat on the back for. Meanwhile, we get a comma wrong and we're going to get pulled on it. So we have to up our standards to a level that is higher. Now, don't get me wrong, we can't control the people around us, and you know, there's a lot of bullshitters in flat. My wife asked me about this. She said, "How high do you think the percentage of bullshitters is on the flat Earth side versus how high the percentage of bullshitters are on the anti-flat Earth side?" And I said, "Well, let's just discount the anti-flat Earth side. That's 100%. So just ignore that." But then it suddenly made me think, yeah, on my own side, if you want to, I have to bundle us in a stereotype to do this, I'm afraid. But how high is the level of bullshit on my side, on my own side, if you will? And I was like, well, pretty high, unfortunately. Outside of this very small corner that we occupy right here, right now, unfortunately, our own side's level of bullshit is pretty high also. Would you not? Feel free to challenge me on this. This is what I said to my wife in reply.
Nope,
Yeah.
I agree.
Nope.
I agree. I'm
100%.
cursing flat earthers out every day.
For
Hey,
bullshit.
Nathan, I've got two dictionaries talking about radius. You see those two? One is dictionary.com. The other one is Merriam-Webster.
Yeah, I've got the Merriam-Webster on first.
Okay, so radius. Definition of radius: a line segment extending from the center of a circle or sphere to the circumference or bounding surface. Go to the other, please.
Okay.
A straight line extending from the center of a circle or sphere to the circumference or the surface. I have no problems with any of these. Number one, a circle is two-dimensional. Their sphere is three-dimensional. Now, in the circle of equal altitude, it's not the sphere of equal altitude, it's the circle of equal altitude. So we got a straight radius coming to us on a two-dimensional circle on a map. That's the real Earth. If they want to say, yeah, but it says also that it's a straight line from the center of a sphere reaching its circumference, I have no problem with that. But you're going to need R. And you ain't got R. That's your presupposition, remember? You say we live on something like a sphere. You say it's 3959, but you are now stuck to your math, and we have to see Earth curvature. And we got to see it where we got to see it, not over here one day, over there one day. That's optical. That could be the weather. Where is it physically? Because your Earth is physical. And so this is a great two citations here, because it proves what we're doing with the sextant, two-dimensional radius straight on a circle on the map. And then if they want to say, yeah, but it can also work on the sphere, well, fantastic. Show us R. Well, to this day, they haven't shown us R.
You know how you save R? by using calculations that require R, that same R that you're trying to save?
Well, here's the thing right here, though. Because like you said, the BS meter is really high here. So unless you're measuring from the center of the sphere to the surface, I'm not concerned with that, because literally when you're using the sextant, you're getting the radius across the surface of the Earth, not from the center of it, across the surface. So I don't care what they say. They're dead.
Perfect way for me to round out the show. So with that, I am going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!